Hi, and welcome to the third series of the Fancy a Brew podcast, talking about adventure, pushing your boundaries, and chasing dreams of underwater exploration. The podcast is supported by Dive Life Scuba Diving Centre, the one-stop shop for all your recreational and technical dive gear and training needs, boasting a 5-star service and their own in-house gas blending and equipment servicing department. For more information, take a look at their website, divelife.co.uk, or on Instagram and Facebook. In this series, I'm going to be chatting to some of the divers I've met along my scuba dive adventures in the last couple of years, ranging from boat skippers, stunt performers, and underwater explorers. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, grab yourself a brew, sit back, and enjoy this week's episode. Right then, so Jo Morley, welcome to Fancy a Brew podcast. What brew have you got? I bet you forgot, haven't you?
I actually haven't got a brew. My brew is on its way. My partner is about to deliver it to me, but I will be having a nice cup of coffee.
This is the first actual proper brew I've had this year. I've been on like this daft health kick where I'm just drinking green tea or lemon water and stuff. Proper trying to go for it this year. And
wow.
I figured, I drink caffeine-free tea anyway, but I figured, let's just leave it out because I have quite a few of them a day with one sugar. So if I have 10 a day, that's quite a lot of sugar in it.
Wow.
So I've cut it
So
out.
what happened today that you felt like you needed a coffee this morning?
Well, I've been swimming since at 7, and then I've just been to the gym again. So I thought, you know what, I've done my bit this week. I definitely deserve one. And we're halfway through the month, aren't we?
Fair play. I know, halfway through the month. We're doing dry-ish January.
Dry-ish.
Well, we were on holiday the first week, so I only started on Monday. It's now Friday. Done pretty well. 4 days in. Probably gonna have a little glass of wine tonight, but it's a vast improvement. I've been doing all kinds of crazy exercises as well. So yeah, definitely feeling you on the January health kick.
Mm. So do you want to give us a little bit of a spiel, a bit of an intro to who you are? Because obviously I've never had you on here before, so just give us a little bit. Look at the size of that mug. That's massive.
I got my brew. I think I've just got a really small head, actually.
I was going to say, is it really close to the camera? Is your head tiny?
Yeah, so thanks so much for having me on. So for anyone listening, my name is Jo Morley, and I head up the campaigns team at an organisation called City to Sea. We run campaigns to prevent plastic pollution here in the UK, but also internationally. And I had the joy of meeting Andy whilst on a tall ship, on a bit of an adventure last summer. I think we're going to talk a bit about today. Very excited to be here.
Is that how you got onto that Darwin project then, because of your role within City to Sea?
Yeah. So we were invited to join the project to carry out the plastics research project specifically. So yeah, Darwin 200 is an environmental education program that was due to do a global voyage, but because of the pandemic, they weren't able to go. So decided to complete it instead here in the UK for 3 months over the summer. And they contacted us because they wanted to do a different kind of series of research projects, and we joined to carry out a plastics research project.
What was it like for you? Had you ever been on a tall ship before?
I have been on a tall ship before. So I grew up in Cornwall, and my dad used to
be a pirate.
Not be a pirate. That would be a much cooler story. No, he used to work on the tall ships races. So they have, kind of these tall ship races around the world. So when I was younger, a couple of times I've sort of volunteered and done some bits and pieces when they've done the tall ships races in Falmouth. So I had been on a tall ship, but I have definitely never spent a month on a tall ship. And there is a very big difference, as you now know as well.
I probably would do it again, I think, but it was the bits in between when we were actually working were the hardest ones, where you'd be like passing people in between your shifts, and then you'd not see anybody else for another 8 hours that you knew or you wanted to interact with. And I think mentally, I had a bit of a low period during those stages. It was when we docked and we came on side, and then we were out doing the surveys, or we were out diving and doing those. That was like the high. So it was a massive high, low, like being at sea, innit? High, non-stop.
Completely. It's one of those things where actually everyone asks me that now, would you do it again? And I now immediately, big smile on my face, absolutely. It was such an epic experience. But yeah, at the time, I mean, there were a huge number of lows. It's a very, very intense experience, and especially an intense experience to go into mid-pandemic when you're used to being in your house with one other person, to suddenly be on a ship with 35 people, sharing a room with 6 people. Our beds were just tiny. We're all stacked on top of each other. And the thing I think I found the hardest was you're on a 24-hour shift pattern. So for anyone who doesn't know, you're kind of, it's a working tall ship. So we're all on 4-hour shift blocks throughout the night. So you're getting up at 4 in the morning. You're doing your shift, then having to repeat it, which means someone's always up, which means the lights are constantly off in your room. So you come off shift at 8 in the morning, the lights are off. You go about your day, you come back in the afternoon, you're just in the dark, you get dressed in the dark, you go to bed in the dark, you wake up in the dark, and you just never have any concept of what's going on at all. And I found that kind of quite destabilizing.
I luckily only did 3 weeks. If you remember, I managed to blag my way off in
Oh
Edinburgh.
yeah, I remember.
Because
just before the North Sea.
Yeah, because the last dive we were going to do up in the Farne Islands got cancelled because the weather was really bad. And I was really only employed to be on that ship to do the diving element. So I asked, would it be a big deal if I got off early? Would I be, letting the team down? And it wasn't. Unfortunately, I picked up some really good work off the back of getting off early. But I feel really bad. Genuinely, I do. Because the week I left, you had like the most epic week known to mankind. Like Noah was even like, ha ha ha, ha, wasn't he?
It was probably one of the toughest weeks in a weird way, because nothing's really happening. But yeah, so we left Edinburgh due to sail down to London, which was supposed to only take about 3 days. We decided we were going to take a little detour. We were going to head over to Norway, check out the fjords. Then we were going to moor up. Where were we? Oh yeah, we were supposed to go to the Farne Isles, and then we were going to moor up just outside the Thames, have a couple of days there, and then sail down the Thames. None of that happened at all. We were effectively sailing into a headwind all the way down the east coast of the UK in the North Sea, which, if anyone ever asks you to go to the North Sea, just say no. Yeah, it's not somewhere you want to spend. It was 8 days in the end that we were there, literally zigzagging across, because you're having to avoid there are the wind farms, you've got oil rigs, there's just so much there to avoid. And because we're on a sailing boat, you can't, you have to choose your course based on the wind, and the size of our engine is tiny, because we were always trying to stay mainly under sail. So there were a couple of days where you'd come on shift, get up on the deck and see a wind farm or see something, and just be like, oh my god, please tell me that's not the same one that was there yesterday when I went to bed. And we spent 2 days basically in the same place, just kind of going a meter forward and then 3 meters back, a meter forward, 3 meters back. It was very depressing. Everyone had seasickness. We got through the ship's store of seasickness tablets twice during that period.
I remember looking on that marine traffic, because for a period of time, obviously, I maintained an interest of where you were, how you were getting on. The ship, not you, obviously. I don't care about you.
Yeah, I can say that's very thoughtful of you, Andy. I know that you missed us.
And looked, and I was like, yeah, they're not going anywhere. They must be having some right fun there. It weren't too far outside of Edinburgh, I think. You'd kind of gone east and just hadn't really gone south at all.
Yeah, my partner's the same. He was watching it because we didn't have any signal, so no communication at all with the outside world. They were just tracking us on the satellite thing, just zigzagging our way. And then I did manage to get signal, and I didn't even know where we were at that point. He's like, "Why have you almost been to France now?"
Really?
But yeah, it was quite an experience, and I mean, it was 100% worth it, because we made it to the Thames. The sun came out, and yeah, we all climbed up the yards, up the rigging, and sailed down the Thames into London, which was just, probably one of the most incredible experiences of my life. It was really cool.
That's awesome. I mean, like I said, I'm not gutted at all that I got off, because the Monday that I started back in normal work, I got a job on the One Show for like BBC. And then that evening, I landed something to work on Emmerdale for 2 weeks, the following week after, which is then set a course for what I'm doing now, you know, training to be a stuntman and all this sort of daft stuff, which is just, if I'd have stayed on that boat, that wouldn't have happened. So
Yeah.
I don't mind at all that I missed that shit weather. But I'm like totally amazed at how destiny's like give me a new path in life. So anyway, so it was nice to meet you on there. It was fantastic. And to be fair, there was you, Janie, and maybe one or two others that kept my morale up. You know, see you in the morning or getting a brew at the thing. It was just someone I could sort of relate to and have a quick chat with. Just give me that little sugar spike that kept me going. So thanks. I appreciate your time.
Oh, we had a lot of fun on there, didn't we? You kept us entertained, that's for sure.
Oh, you can't beat a bit of banter though, can you? You've got to give a bit of grief and get it back.
Our daily rinsing session of you.
I think I got rinsed a lot more than anybody else, to be fair. Probably deserved it.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair to say.
So let's get on to the obviously topic of this podcast. It's about scuba diving, which me and you have had a quick chat about when we were on there, because you're like, oh, I'm a diver as well, but I don't think you do the kind of diving or as much diving as I want to be doing and generally do. So what led you down the scuba diving path initially?
Yeah, really good question. So I was incredibly lucky. My dad used to be a diver back in the day. He was a marine biologist, and he used to be a professional diver out in Saudi and out in the Middle East. So he and we grew up in Cornwall as well. So I've always been, really passionate about the ocean, anything to do with marine life. So I think I first dived when I was probably about 13 or 14.
Yeah.
Did my training at home in the UK and went out and dived in the Red Sea in Egypt. And I didn't then dive again for a really long time, and then kind of picked it back up again in my 20s. Did some diving out in Asia, and then again it was kind of off and on, just when I could afford it or when I was traveling. But it's always something I'd wanted to do much more of. And then about 5 years ago, I took some time out, had a couple of years off work, and went and did a marine conservation project out in Indonesia, in Raja Ampat. So it's kind of West Papua, which is literally the best place to dive in the world. It's unbelievable, just completely untouched reefs. Absolutely, yeah, just stunning. And I was out there for about 3 months, and that's when I did my dive masters.
Yeah.
So I am technically a dive master, although I definitely wouldn't want to be responsible for anyone else. But it was something I'd always wanted to do, because I dive kind of so sporadically over the years. I always just felt kind of edgy. You're never really getting to grips with it. It's not feeling sort of habitual. I didn't really feel that's safe. You can go to Thailand, they'll stick a tank on you and
push you in.
diving.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to do that kind of safety training and have that confidence myself that I knew what I was doing, and I felt like I could get myself out of trouble if I was in it.
Somebody put it to me the other day that it's any kind of skill, it's almost like a language. You need to keep up the practice of it, because that muscle memory comes back so often. I found it, we dived in Scapa Flow the end of October, and it was like 2 dives a day for 5 days solid. And by the end of that, I could have done everything with my eyes closed, found every little clip or strap or piece of equipment, no problem. So to consolidate it over a period of 3 months is probably going to be the only way you're going to really hone all them skills and get all your kit nice and tidy and
exactly
feel completely confident in it.
Exactly. No, it was an incredible experience. Definitely made me a better diver. Had a few hairy experiences out there as well. But yeah, it was, definitely one of the best things I've ever done. And it was actually that conservation project where I kind of started getting really into the plastics research, and it was from there and the work I did out there that actually led me on to working at City to Sea when I returned home.
Right, so come on then, give us a spin the spiel on City to Sea, because I've got like an affiliateship or whatever you call it with this company here, Stream to Sea. This is not advertising for them. This is just me trying to show you. So they do like mask cleaners, hand sanitizers, and all this that are reef safe, but they're the only company that are actually reef safe. So loads of people have put reef safe on the bottle. It's an American company. I've had her on my podcast, so I know her. I've spoke to her. Look at that face. You're like,
You've had the spiel, haven't you?
I've been told, yeah. Yeah, it's in a plastic bottle though, isn't it? Still in a plastic bottle. So, but she started off, she was diving, where did she say she was now? Palau. Let's say it's Palau, I think it was.
Yeah.
She was either diving off the back of a boat or snorkeling. And she'd seen a couple of people get off the back of the boat into the water. And all this sunscreen had started to put this like oil slick all over the water. And she is a, what do you kind of call it now? A cosmetic scientist, pharmacist or whatever, chemist. And she said to herself, right, I need to do something about that. Because she's a diver, you know, she's passionate about it anyway. So she's gone away and looked at all the ingredients and made this mineral-based sunscreen. That's where it started. And I've never used that before. And there's a video, if you could bother looking up who they are, that Richard Branson puts a bit on his hand like he would normal sunscreen. And he puts it on and it just goes on dead thick. You need like a little pea-size amount and that'll do for like most of you. And then they developed products. And through the pandemic starting last year, she was supposed to send 300,000 units off to Virgin Atlantic Cruises or whatever. But obviously that got cancelled because all the boats got cancelled. So she'd come into some alcohol and started making hand sanitizer. And it all sort of strings to the same bow. You know, they're all trying to look at being this sort of reef-friendly and biodegradable substances. So when I heard of City to Sea, I think I remember saying to you about this. Is it the same sort of thing? It's kind of not. They make chemicals used to the conservation aspects of it. And I'm sure you're going to elaborate a lot more on it, aren't you? So go for it. Tell us who you are or who they are.
Cool. So thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk a little bit about who we are and our work. So City to Sea, we are a plastic pollution campaigning organisation. So we run campaigns to try and stop single-use plastic ending up on our beaches. That's kind of our primary aim as an organisation. So the organisation, we started life back in Bristol, which
Right.
is where we're based. And it was set up by our founder, Natalie Fee, who's an amazing campaigner and author. And she had seen kind of the scale of the problem, you know, not just in Bristol, seeing the plastic and the rubbish just flowing out of the river into the oceans, but she'd also watched the film Midway, which is about the albatrosses. I don't know if you've seen that in the middle of the Pacific, which is an incredible, really, really incredible, but you know, quite emotional, you know, film to see the impact of the everyday plastics that we use that are effectively killing off entire species of birds right in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, thousands of
Really?
miles away from where any humans live. And she wanted to do something about it. So she set up City to Sea, which is about connecting people, connecting individuals with the everyday items and the plastic problem that we have in our cities, and connecting them with how it's ending up in our oceans. So for us, it's all about that connection from our actions to our oceans. And it's literally from city to the sea. So that's where the name came from.
See, for me, the connection would be, I mean, the coast is on my horizon, but I either put it in landfill or I don't litter, obviously, but if I put stuff on the floor or whatever, it washes down the grid, goes into the stream, goes down the river, washes into, you know, the estuary, and then it's out to sea, innit? But
exactly.
I mean, Ali did, I forget where I was. I must have been away on some diving course a couple of years ago, and she did a beach clean near us where I was swimming on New Year. And it was all cotton buds, you know what you use for your ears?
Yeah,
Hundreds of them.
Yeah, well, that's actually it's like you planned that. So that was actually the first campaign that we
Seamless
ran
link.
was called Switch the Stick.
Yeah.
And it came about because Nat, our founder, did exactly the same thing Ali did. She did a river clean in Bristol and kept finding all these little plastic sticks and was like, well, what the hell are these? Realized that they were cotton bud sticks and realized actually people are flushing them down the toilet and they are making their way from our sewers, from our sewage system, which when it becomes flooded, when we have high levels of rain, there's a massive problem, which I'm sure, a lot of your listeners will be aware of, with sewage runoff, which is not just creating pollution problems in our rivers, but also leads to plastic pollution leaking out as well.
Yeah.
And about 6% of the plastic that we find on our beaches here in the UK is actually plastic that is flushed down our toilets. So that is things like menstrual products, tampons, what they called things you put in your eye, contact lenses, wet wipes is just a phenomenal problem here. It's actually the scale of pollution that is caused from wet wipes, which most people don't realize contain plastic, are being flushed down our toilets, escaping into our waterways, and they're actually changing the shape of rivers. So rivers, around London, particularly around big cities, they are changing the shape because these wet wipes are embedding themselves into the banks. They don't biodegrade because they contain plastic. It's just a huge problem. So we try and tackle single-use plastics particularly, and that makes up around half of all the marine litter that we find on our beaches. So looking at things like plastic that's flushed down the toilet, and also plastic from takeaway food and drink, from retail plastic, all of those kind of things as well. But back to cotton bud sticks. So that was our first campaign. Yeah, Nat found them, worked out what they were, and thought, oh, hang on a minute, why are we making these out of plastic? So she contacted the retailers, found out that actually most of them didn't even know. At some point, they'd changed the production. They used to be made of cardboard. They'd switched production and were now making them out of plastic. And it probably came down to cost, no doubt. So we launched a petition, we launched a big public facing campaign, and we lobbied those brands. So looking at Superdrug, Boots, Tesco's, a lot of the own brand retailers, and we successfully got them to switch back from cotton buds being made of plastic to cardboard again. And that one move from that one product saved around 480 tons of plastic every year just from cotton bud sticks. And they have now gone on to be banned as part of the single-use plastic directive. But this campaign was way back in 2016, so many years of saving plastic, and that's why we try to focus on individual items, looking at the most polluting and finding ways to stop them at source. How can we eliminate that plastic item, or look at what it's made of, or how can we switch to reusables?
Just quickly going to interrupt this interview for a word about our sponsors. So the Fancy a Brew podcast is supported by Dive Life Scuba Diving Centre, your one-stop shop for all the recreational and technical dive gear and training needs based out of the UK. They boast a 5-star service with their own in-house gas blending and equipment servicing department. Not only do they have the biggest well-known brands such as Halcyon, Santee, X-Deep and Fourth Element, but they're also helping to promote new and up-and-coming brands reach their full potential. With a long-standing instructional career, Ollie van Overbeek has developed a community of divers through his store's club memberships, offering fantastic discounts on trips and training and equipment. The team at Dive Life teaches everything from open water to advanced Trimix rebreather courses, or even if you want to become an instructor, no matter what your diving aim, they can help. So for more information, take a look at their website, divelife.co.uk, or find them on Instagram and Facebook. And for a 10% discount on internet sales, use promotional code ATND10 at the checkout. Unfortunately, this isn't usable on any already discounted products. So next time that you're looking around for training or kit, give Dive Life a click. And now let's get back onto this episode. I've got a question that came from that I remember my kids are well older now, so we don't use so many wipes and that. But they always were labelled flushable wipes. But then I got told by a drain cleaner once because our drains got blocked. Surprisingly, no, mate, they're not flushable. Then I was like,
Yeah,
so
I know.
why are they called that then?
So, yes, this is a problem called greenwashing, where essentially, it's fairly unregulated. It's something we've been campaigning on for a really long time, to change the regulation around labelling for wet wipes, because a lot of organisations call them flushable. Yes, they can be flushed, of course they can, but they shouldn't, and they will cause a huge problem. One of the biggest costs for all of the water companies is dealing with what we call fatbergs. So fatbergs are essentially big piles of wet wipes that have got caught up with oil and fat that people also pour down the drain, which blocks all of our sewers, costs millions of pounds for the water companies to clean, and also leads to the sewage works becoming blocked and then overflowing, and that's what leads to us getting pollution in our rivers, which causes huge health problems for humans, but also ends up with lots of plastic washing up on our beaches.
There was something on the news yesterday. It must have been on radio, and they said there's not one river in the UK now that's not polluted. It's
Yeah,
just, we're like the first world country, aren't we? We should be like better than that. That's
it's
bad.
it's it's horrendous, I know. And I mean, organizations like Surfers Against Sewage have been campaigning really hard on these issues, but yeah, it's absolutely terrible. The UK is, we think that we have very high environmental standards, but we're one of the most nature depleted countries in the world. And we suffer with huge problems, looking at plastic pollution, looking at river pollution, and it's caused a lot from agriculture and runoff into the rivers. But yeah, it's just terrible. But it's brilliant that the message is getting out there and reaching more people, who are rightly shocked to find this out.
A guy who I learned underwater photography a couple of years ago. They're quite good friends of ours. He was responsible for a campaign only in Manchester, but I think it's gone much bigger than that now. It was called Sea Straw. So all the bars and pubs around central Manchester, he went round sort of like mithering and petitioning and whatever to stop using plastic straws and just use like cardboard paper ones. And that seems to have had a massive knock-on effect. But I've not been anywhere that sells or gives away plastic straws at all anymore.
Well,
Is that
good, because
a
they
big
are
thing?
banned.
Is that
They've
right?
actually, yeah. So straws were one of the first items. Straws, cotton bud sticks, and things like plastic stirrers were some of the first items that were banned across Europe as part of something called the Single-Use Plastics Directive. So that was brought in 2020 with an initial round of bans. And interestingly, this is something that we're campaigning on at the moment here in the UK, because in July last year, so 2021, they were supposed to bring in another ban, which banned additional things. So things like plastic cutlery, plastic plates, and some polystyrene and a few other bits. And actually, that ban did come in successfully across all of Europe, but good old UK, even though we promised that we were going to do it when Brexit happened, we are still yet to bring in the ban. So we launched a petition a few months ago, and we've now had over 100,000 people sign our petition calling on the government to effectively get their shit together, and bring the ban into place. So there's a consultation that's now open. So anyone listening, please do check out our website and add
It's
your
there on the
voice.
front page. I can see it. I can't even say it. Cut the cutlery. Consultation is open. Fill in the consultation. Boom. Sign our plastic-free journal. See, I'm
Amazing.
You
Thank
shocked Anna that I
you.
was all over that.
Lovely little plug in there. But no, it's really important, and it's just another example of where the UK is really falling behind the rest of Europe and other parts of the world, just to bring in basic bans, that we had committed to and said that we were going to do. So yes, we all need to add our voice to that one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't eat at them like at Chippies and stuff like that, but I'm sure they're still using plastic forks at most of them. But when I was on that Emmerdale shoot in the summer or September, October, they were all serving in a cardboard box with wooden cutlery, which I was like, I'm pretty shocked at, to be fair, because you don't expect to see that kind of thing being taken. But the fact that it's quite a big company getting behind things like that, the catering company was, that is,
Yeah.
as much as ITV is, I suppose. But it's great to see. And even my daughter's boyfriend, he's got like a clothing brand. Regardless of what the clothing is, the packaging is all either in paper format or these vegetable protein bags, are they?
Yeah, so well,
Can of worms now. What have I
so
said?
there are a couple of things to unpick there, because so it's not just plastic that's the problem here. So as a society, we are just addicted to single use and disposable.
Okay.
We love convenience, and we love to have our lunch. We love to have a coffee. We love to, buy things, take the packaging, chuck it away. And actually, that is the problem here. Whilst yes, plastic is more problematic than other things, even things like paper, using wooden cutlery. A tree has been grown somewhere and cut down and processed. That cutlery has been shipped around the world. And we seem to have forgotten about, remember, good old metal knives and forks and real plates.
Yeah.
I think ultimately that's what we need to get back to. And that's what we as an organization are really pushing for is reusable systems. Us having materials, valuing them and using them again and again and again. So even though it is brilliant that organizations are obviously taking steps, and definitely cardboard and wood are much more sustainable. If a wooden fork ends up in the ocean, it's going to biodegrade. If a plastic fork ends up in the ocean, it's going to break down into little pieces of microplastics, and they're going to end up in fish, harming wildlife and ending up in the food chain. So whilst definitely some materials are more sustainable than others, we still need to see a transition away from single use, because we live on a finite planet, and we've got to stop throwing everything away.
It is a joke how much stuff can go in the bin, though, isn't it? Like Amazon, I don't want to slag them off because they'll probably send some around, kill me. But I ordered something. It was over Christmas. I ordered quite a few bits, and the boxes they come in for such a small thing. Where is it? I've got this little. Yeah, that's it there. I have this oil for like massage and that, and it's only tiny, but it come in a box. It was like I could have had a pair of shoes in it.
Yeah, sometimes they come in a box, in a box, in a box.
Get a grip. But who
I
do you complain
know.
to? You can't even whinge, can you? And then there's
There's
all that
no one to
plastic
speak
packaging,
to.
that bubble wrap around it too. Let's
Oh
get.
yeah, that's the other thing that you asked about, the
Yeah,
vegetable kind of biodegradable.
yeah.
So that's the other big magical myth, that is a big bugbear of mine, is that we all have these wonderful cups now that say I'm a compostable cup, and this plastic packaging that says I'm made from plants. And whilst that sounds great, for the most part, biodegradable and compostable plastics are actually not very good news. So just because something's made of a plant, it doesn't mean that it biodegrades in the same way that a plant would. So a lot of these biodegradable and compostable plastics, once they're made into something, they actually behave in exactly the same way as plastic would. So if it ended up in the sea, if it ended up in your local park, it's not going to break down. They need to be, most of these, and there are some really brilliant new innovations that are coming to the market, but most of these compostable items actually need to be collected, taken to industrial composting facilities, of which we have hardly any in the UK, and they actually need to be broken down at really high temperatures for something like 8 to 12 weeks. So unless your coffee cup is collected in a single stream, so with only other coffee cups made up of exactly the same materials, and taken to a special facility to be composted, then to be honest, it doesn't make any difference. It's behaving exactly the same way as a plastic lined one would. And actually, if some of these compostable plastics, the ones you get drinks in that look like just a plastic cup, if that ends up in your recycling with other plastics, it will actually contaminate the
Oh
plastics
no.
and mean that none of them get recycled. I'm sorry, I know it's the most depressing bad news ever because everyone feels great about having a compostable cup.
What was that umbrella
Sorry.
term you what was that umbrella term you used for all this that makes you feel good but it's actually not? Green profile? No,
Greenwashing. So
greenwashing.
greenwashing,
You think you're doing good and actually you're just as bad.
that's what businesses like to do, to
Mm,
convince us that their products are sustainable
yeah.
when really they're probably not. But yeah, that's the biggest myth at the moment, that everyone, that businesses are now switching from one single use item to another single use item because they think now, oh, it's all right, it's compostable, it's fine. And actually, that's going to be the big problem next. But the good news is, it is something with the consultation that I mentioned that's open at the moment. It is something that the government are considering and looking at. So hopefully there will be some regulation and some guidance coming in around compostable plastics.
Yeah. Just looking through the top of your website, obviously you've got an explanation of who you are and the campaigns that you do. How can people get involved with you? I mean, I've seen straight away that via the Google bit, as I typed in city to sea, job vacancies, but you've got like plastic-free living, collaborations and take action bits. So let's say somebody decides they want to be divers against plastic, not trying to rip off surfers against sewage, but you know what I mean? It's a divers
Yeah.
podcast. I've become more aware of the problem since diving in the last 6 or 7 years or whatever. What happens if someone listens to this and goes, I want to be more like Joe? How can he get
I mean,
involved?
who wouldn't?
Yoga teacher extraordinaire. Oh, by the way, she didn't teach me any yoga. Just taught me one stretch. Carry on. Anyway.
I actually did try and teach you some yoga. I seem to
Lies.
remember.
Absolute lies. You just ripped me because of the stretch that I was doing, this glute stretch. You went, that's doing nothing, don't you? I'm like,
Yeah.
it feels all right. And then you
He
just went,
looked like he thought he was doing a good stretch, but really it
yeah.
wasn't doing anything. He was
Anyway.
just showing off. But no, really good point. If people want to get involved, and I really hope that people do, particularly I imagine, as you say, divers are seeing the problem firsthand, seeing the impact on our oceans, and hopefully want to do something about it. So there's a couple of ways. If you want to live with less plastic yourself, we have a whole section of our website which is just filled with tips, simple tips and tricks, covering everything from your bathroom, how to go plastic free in your bathroom, right down to your garden, to your kitchen. And we also have a very simple app which is called the Refill app, which is a location-based app. It's here in the UK, but also works around the world, which will help you find places that you can fill up your water bottle for free. So if you have a reusable bottle, you can find out where to fill that up totally for free, and also find other places that you can shop plastic free. You can get a discount on your hot drink if you take your reusable cup out there, and it will help you find other plastic free shopping options as well. So super simple. Download the Refill app. We've also got a number of campaigns. There's always ways to get involved. You can, sign petitions. You can add your voice in a number of ways. And we also have a newsletter. So Plastic Free Journal is our monthly newsletter that goes out with kind of tips on plastic free living. It's got campaign updates, it's got news, it's got stories. And we also have quite often some special offers and competitions from our partners as well.
Wicked. So what's the website called? Just city2c.org.uk, innit? I've just looked at that the plastic free living sort of section, and it's broken down really well actually. If for me, you're gonna kill me. I've just bought myself an electric toothbrush. I went to the dentist the other week, and she said, whilst your teeth are gleaming, I brush too hard. So you need to get an electric toothbrush because otherwise you're going to take all the enamel off. I've not got any fillings yet, but she said you're probably going to end up with them because you're brushing so hard. Because I like my teeth being clean. I don't want them feeling like Velcro. So I bought myself a electric toothbrush, but I can't get any wooden parts or less plastic
But
variants of
that's
that.
fine. So I guess this is the other really important thing is plastic isn't bad. Like plastic in itself is
Mm.
not a bad thing at all. It's made things lighter. It's made many things more durable. It's helped us with incredible healthcare and
Mm.
medicine breakthrough. So plastic in itself is not a bad thing. It's single use is the problem. It's
Yeah.
the fact that we're using things once and we are chucking them away, and they are going to be there for a very, very, very long time. It's affecting wildlife. It's affecting our health. But if you've got something plastic that you're going to use for years, it's not a bad thing. So electric toothbrush actually very good. You're going to hopefully keep that for a long time. And it will replace potentially 20 single use or disposable toothbrushes.
The thing is, whilst they agree to some end, the body and the battery bit will last for a number of years, you'd hope, wouldn't you? But it's the top bit gets thrown away as often as a normal toothbrush, so it's only half the size, that top bit. But there's no way they could make it out of wood. Whereas I've seen the bamboo ones, that have got different bristles and stuff. And whilst they would work, because I need a softer toothbrush, because I like proper ragging my teeth, me, getting them as clean as I can.
Of course
Not
you
that...
do. You don't do anything by half measures.
No, not
Even
at all.
brushing your teeth.
So that's just one option, because that's something that springs to mind. That's something that is single use. I use it for 3 months at a time, throw it away. Can't reuse it for anything, or maybe cleaning my taps or something like that.
Yeah.
But looking at, like I say in the breakdown here, it's all broke down into plastic-free cleaning or kitchen or fashion or garden. When we buy bananas, you go into Aldi, you've got a section of bananas in bags, and then a section not in bags. What's the need for the bag when you've got some that are not? So we always go for the ones that are not, because if I do my little bit, but someone else is still going to use them in a bag.
Yeah. And the other thing as well, is when you do your veg shopping, you don't have to put them in plastic bags. So it often blows people's minds when I'm at the till. I'll tend to choose, veg that are loose anyway, not in a bag. But you don't then have to put them in one of those little carrier bags just to take them to the till to unpack them when you get home.
Big
You can just
armful of
put them
carrots.
loose in your trolley.
Yeah.
And put them on the till, yeah, and then buy them like that. It's just all those little things, little small changes that you can do. Sign up for a veg box. That for me is super simple way to do it. Also really nice that you get seasonal veg. You get to see where your food's from. You can support local farmers. And another top tip is get your milk from the milkman. Milkmen are making a comeback across the UK. Yeah, even so, we get our oat milk delivered in glass bottles to our house now. Very Bristol, but I'm sure you can probably get it in other parts of the country.
Well, we went, when was it? First or second week of September now, I forget, last year, 21. And on the campsite, they had where you can go and buy yourself a proper milk bottle and then go and fill it up. It was pasteurised, so it wasn't raw, because that still plagues me, having raw milk. I don't know if I can have that. It just makes me feel sick. But it was the most beautiful pint of milk ever. I don't know if it was because it was out of glass, or because it hadn't been sat on a shelf for like a week waiting for me to go and pick it up, or it wasn't out of plastic. I don't know. But it was so back like when I was a kid in the 80s, with that little bit of cream on the top. It was fit. But I know you won't drink that. You won't drink it, will you?
I can imagine though, but it's that element of excitement. You get, Monday morning, you open the door, our milk's there on the doorstep, just like magic. The magic milk elf has been and delivered it. So, simple pleasures of getting your veg and your milk delivered to your door, and you're also supporting local farms, which is also very important as well. Try it. That can be what's going to be your plastic tip that you are going to take on board then, Andy?
My plastic tip. Oh God. See, I think I do as much as is not easy, because that sounds like a cop out, doesn't it? But I do what I can. So, like I said, when I go to the supermarket, I will buy like bananas, for instance. That's an obvious, because I buy them every week. I buy local, so eggs. We got 2 dozen eggs yesterday from someone around the corner that grows them. I probably will change actually, because there's a plastic reduction straight away. I use 1 bottle of milk a week because I only have it in my cereal now. So if I buy it off the milkman, it's someone local in it that's going to make a few quid rather than the supermarket, and it's 1 bit of plastic less. You know, is it actually going to be that much more money? I bet it doesn't cost more than about another 50p.
No,
And what's 50p?
it's not. For I don't know the exact price comparison on milk, but for us, actually, the oat milk we get delivered is cheaper than getting it in the containers from the supermarket. It's actually cheaper for us to get our oat milk delivered to our door in glass bottles and taken away than it is to buy it from the supermarket. So, you know, a lot of these swaps don't cost more money. You know, and that's it. You know, like you said, start small. Do one thing. If your resolution on your swap is going to be milk, epic. Start with that. You know, then find out what else you can phase in and make it easy. It doesn't have to feel completely overwhelming. You know, and you don't need to feel like you've got to change everything all at once. You know, it's taken me years. We have a pretty plastic free house now, but you know, I'm lucky. We have a fairly good income. We don't have any children. I have time to go to the zero waste shop. I completely appreciate not everyone has that, and the reality when you're juggling kids and a job is that you don't have time to do those things. So yeah, be kind to yourself. Start small. Look at what you could swap. Get a keep cup, use a reusable water bottle, and see what else you could gradually start to introduce to your life.
Good message, mate. Thanks a lot. Happy days.
Thanking for him.
Right then.
Well, have a lush rest of your weekend and stay in touch. Let me know when this is going to be out.
I will do.
And I'll catch up with you soon, hopefully.
Well, thanks for coming on, pal. I appreciate your time. Nice one.
Take care.
See you later, Joe.
Bye,
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
So that brings us to the end of the episode, and I hope you've enjoyed this week's guest enough to subscribe to the Fancy a Brew podcast and leave us a 5-star review wherever you download your podcasts. Don't forget to take a look at Dive Life's website and social media channels, as they always have some great deals available, and you can use promo code ATND10 at the checkout to get some money off any non-discounted items. For more information on this episode, take a look at the description or follow us on Instagram for all the latest news and upcoming releases. Thanks for listening. I'll see you on the next one.